Indigenous people, it's for all of us. All that I've learned as an environmentalist have been taught to me by Indigenous people across this country, and I thank you for that. What is going on now is a battle against corporations and the capitalist system where they are determined to extract every bit out of this planet, regardless of what the consequences are. We know the coal industry and the oil industry have known since the 1960s that climate change as a result of burning fossil fuels represented a hazard that will affect all of humanity. But look at their track record of what they have done. How the hell have we got into this mess? I believe the battle now is over the way that we see our place on this planet. For most of human history, people have understood that we were deeply embedded in nature, that we existed in a complex relationship and complex set of connections, of relationships with other living creatures, with air, water, and soil. We understood that. That's called an ecocentric way of living, that we see that we are a part of this complex web on which we depend. But over the last few centuries, we've globalized a very different way of seeing our place on the planet. And that's now driven by a sense that we're everything. We're at the center of the action, and everything around us is about us. Our legal system reflects that. Our economic system and our political system all reflect that anthropocentrism. We think that we're at the center of the action. And so I just want to tell you a story that shows the crisis that we face. 4 years ago, I got a call from the CEO of one of the largest companies in the tar sands in Alberta. And he said, "Can I come and talk to you?" I said, "Absolutely. I'm not into fighting. Come and talk to me." And he showed up the next day at my office. And I thanked him and said what an honor it was. But I said, "Before you come into my office, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to leave your identity as the CEO of an oil company outside. I want to meet you as one human being with another, because I want to see what we agree on. What's the point of talking about oil and pipelines and climate change if we don't start with a fundamental foundation of agreement?" He was not too happy. That's not why he came down to talk to me, but he was a good man. And he came into my office and I said, "Look, thank you for doing that. What I'm trying to say is we live in a world that is shaped and constrained by laws of nature, and we have to live within them. We can't do anything about it. Physics tells you can't build a rocket that will move faster than the speed of light. The law of gravity says if I trip on these stairs, I'm going to hit my head down at the bottom. First and second law of thermodynamics tell us we can't build a perpetual motion machine. We know that. That's what nature tells us. The laws of chemistry are the same. The atomic property of the elements determine melting point, freezing point, boiling point, reaction rates, diffusion constants, all of that stuff that tells us what we can or cannot do in a test tube, and we live within that. And in biology, it's the same. Every species has a maximum number that can be sustained indefinitely. If you exceed that number, your population will crash. That's determined by the carrying capacity of an ecosystem or habitat. But we're not like most species. We're not limited to a habitat or an ecosystem because we're smart. We can live in many, many different circumstances, but there is still a maximum number that can be sustained. And every scientist I've talked to agrees with me. We're way past the carrying capacity of the planet for us. We live with the illusion that everything is fine because we're using up the rightful legacy of our children and grandchildren, all in the name of economic progress. So I said, Mr. CEO, you and I, we are animals. Boy, he didn't like that. I said, if you're not an animal, are you a plant? I'm a biologist. I know we're animals. And I said, Mr. CEO, what is the most important thing that every human being needs? And instead of giving me the answer, as every one of you would, he went, So I realized he's thinking, money, a job? I said, if you don't have air for 3 minutes, you're dead. If you have to breathe polluted air, you're sick. So would you not agree with me that air is a sacred gift from nature? That in imbibing in air, we accept a responsibility to care for that air. And I said, you and I, we're 60 to 70% water by weight. We're just a big blob of water with enough thickener added, we don't dribble away on the floor. But we leak water. It comes out of our skin and our eyes and our mouth and our crotch. We lose water. I said, Mr. CEO, if you don't have water for 4 to 6 days, you're dead. If you have to drink polluted water, you're sick. So isn't clean water like clean air? It's a gift from nature, and we have a responsibility to care for it. Now we can do a lot longer we can go a lot longer without food. 4 to 6 weeks without food, you die. Contaminated food, you sicken, and most of our food is grown in the soil. So clean soil and food joins clean water and clean air. And finally, all of the energy in our bodies that we use to move and grow and reproduce and do work is sunlight captured by plants in photosynthesis that we get by eating the plants or the animals that eat the plants, and we store it. And when we need to do work, we release the energy of the sun back out in our bodies. So photosynthesis joins clean soil and food, clean water and clean air. And the miracle of life on this planet is those 4 things that indigenous people call earth, air, fire, and water are cleansed, replenished, or created by the web of living things we call our brothers and sisters. I said, Mr. CEO, if you would agree with me that that's the foundation for all human beings, and that all other things, capitalism, corporations, religions, politics, all of that stuff is created by humans. You can't change the laws of nature, but you can change what we create. I said, if you will shake hands with me and agree with me, I will do everything I can to help you and your company. Woo. Well, of course, he couldn't shake hands with me because that's not his job. If he went back to his shareholders and said, well, I had a discussion with Suzuki and he's right, we can't do anything that will mess with the air, water, and soil, he would get fired in a second because that's not his job. And this is a challenge. The system is fixed, and that's what the battle is about. It's about a mentality that thinks our human constructs, our politics, our economics, our laws are all about us, and it leaves out the most important elements on the planet, which is what keeps us alive and healthy. Thank you to the Wet'suwet'en people for hanging in. Thank you all for coming to support this. This is a challenge.
Thank you, David Suzuki. We would like to welcome up Billy Pierre to give some words. We have just a couple more speakers. These final speakers are going to send us off in a good way and remind us of that power that we hold in the streets when we're together.